The Galactic stage was packed with thousands of alien delegates, each more colorful and bizarre than the next. From the insectoid Ralk to the floating cloud-like Chiari, the species of the known universe had come together to witness something strange, something rare. A human had been invited to speak at the High Peace Council for the first time in its long history. Standing behind the shimmering podium was Envoy Mason Cole. Tall, calm, dressed in a dark uniform with Earth's symbol. Stitched over his heart, his voice echoed clear through the hall, translated instantly into over 900 alien dialects. But few were listening. Most were chuckling. A ripple of laughter passed through the crowd before Mason had even said a word. From a golden hover seat, near the front, Ambassador Yila of the Clinari Empire rolled her glowing red eyes. Her pale skin shimmered with embedded crystals that marked her royal lineage. She leaned to her neighbor, a reptilian Brunk warlord, and whispered loud enough for several to hear. Humans, always pretending they belong. Let him speak. Then we'll go back to serious matters. The Brunk snorted, amused. Mason saw the reactions, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he looked up at the massive ceiling where glowing constellations rotated slowly, a symbol of galactic unity. He took a breath and began. Before Earth joined the Union, we were called primitive, dangerous, unfit. That hasn't changed much, has it? Soft laughter. Someone clicked their mandibles mockingly. But our past, Mason continued, is written not just in words, but in pain, in survival, in ink. That last word made Yila's head tilt. Ink. What did he mean? Tattoos, ritual markings. How quaint. We don't forget our history. We carry it with us. On our skin, on our hearts. The audience grew slightly quieter. And those marks, Mason said slowly, tell more truth than all the fancy titles in this room. Eula scoffed. She had enough. Are we supposed to be impressed by your drawings, human? Mason glanced her way. You're already wearing one. Room fell silent. Every alien I turned toward Yila, her brow furrowed. What did you say? You heard me, Mason replied calmly. The mark on your back, do you know what it means? Yila's skin shimmered slightly in confusion. I bear the Clinari crest. It is my birthright. No, Mason said. The old one. It faded. Burned into your flesh during your father's war campaign on Eridani Theta. Yila's expression hardened. That scar had been with her since she was a child. Her father had never explained it. It's just a mark from the war, he'd said. Meaningless. But Mason knew. And so did someone else in the crowd. A hush fell across the chamber as an elderly, Irani archivist floated up in his jellyfish-like pod, blinking softly. The mark is human, the Irani said. Ancient, a symbol of vengeance. From Earth's old wars. Now silence turned to unease. Yila's hand went to the back of her neck, as if she could feel the mark burning anew. Her crystals dimmed. This isn't possible, she muttered. I've never met a human before this day. You haven't, Mason said. But one met your family. Long ago, and he left a warning. In ink, the tension in the room snapped like a pulled wire. The Brunk beside Yila shifted uncomfortably. Whispers spread. The Clinari were powerful or Gant, but if a human had once touched their royal bloodline and survived to leave a mark, that meant something was wrong. Very wrong, Ambassador. Yila stood up slowly, her confidence cracking. This is a lie, a trick. No human ever. Mason took out a small black tablet and tapped the screen. A hologram shimmered above him. It was a symbol curved line surrounding a sharp spear shape, surrounded by faded fire. The same symbol burned. Onto Yila's back. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Delegates began to stand, murmur, retreat. I know that mark, the Irani whispered. It's a curse. It's a promise, Mason corrected. Left by one of our own. He was taken. Tortured, but before he died. He swore your bloodline would remember him. Yila trembled. Ow! Do you know this? Because the story was passed down, Mason said. From soldier to soldier, until it reached me. "And now you're here to finish it?" she asked. "No," Mason said. "I'm just here to remind you. ... We never forget." The lights dimmed suddenly. A soft red hue fell over the chamber. Council alarms. Security doors slammed shut. Panic broke across the rows of delegates. Yilla looked up at the glowing constellations on the ceiling. One star blinked out, then another. "What's happening?" she snapped. Mason didn't answer. He simply looked at her with quiet knowing. Because far above, in orbit, Earth's fleet had arrived. Not to attack. Not yet, but to be seen. 7 warships. Silent, motionless, broadcasting one image galaxy-wide. That same mark burning white against black, and a message. "We remember everything." The laughter was gone now. The joke had ended. And somewhere buried deep inside a galaxy that had long underestimated Earth, fear was waking. Not because humans had warships, not because they had soldiers, but because they had memories. And they carved those memories deep into their skin, even into the backs of their enemies. Sela couldn't sleep. Her eyes stayed open, wide, glowing faintly in the dim chamber of her private quarters. The laughter of the council earlier still echoed in her ears. But something else had pushed its way into her thoughts. Something far stronger than the mockery she once enjoyed. It was the mark. The strange symbol burned in her mind, etched on the human woman's back like it didn't belong in this universe. It pulsed in her memory like a living thing. She had reviewed the footage, again, frame by frame, slow motion, enhanced, scanned with every known spectrum and sensor filter. The mark did not respond to any analysis. It just sat there dark and silent, almost mocking the machines that tried to understand it. That night, in the quiet of her quarters, Sela did something rare for her, kind she felt afraid. Her people were from the Varric's dominion. They ruled 6 star sectors. Their weapons were feared. Their minds were sharp, had broken empires, enslaved species, and laughed at Earth's small ships from the safety of orbiting thrones. But that mark didn't make sense, and what made it worse was what came after. Every attempt to scan the human prisoner who still hadn't spoken a word was blocked. Equipment malfunctioned. The power flickered. One technician's eyes started bleeding during a scan. He was still unconscious. The human woman just sat there in the cell, staring into the wall like she was waiting for something. Sela finally stood from her chair and stepped to the console. Her fingers tapped out commands. No response. She tapped. Harder still, nothing. It was like the console had locked her out. And then the lights dimmed. The hum of the ship, always constant, dropped by a single pitch. Almost unnoticeable, but to someone raised on ships, it screamed wrong. Sela reached for the wall panel. The emergency comes. Before her hand touched the panel, it lit up on its own. Words appeared. Not Varric's, not any known galactic language. Human. Script, her blood turned cold. Just 3 words, glowing in soft red. She is a key. She backed away. Before she could move farther, the ship's alarm blared. But it wasn't the usual siren. It sounded corrupted, glitched, like it had been twisted into something else. She ran to the main deck, her personal guards scrambling. Behind her, the command deck was chaos, lights flashing, officers yelling, screens going dark and lighting up again with human symbols. None of them understood. The prisoner's door was still sealed, but the camera showed her now standing, silent, calm, her back turned toward the lens, the mark glowing faintly. One of the officers screamed, pointing at the screen. The mark had changed. It was moving, rotating slowly, like it was alive. And with every rotation, systems failed. Weapons stopped responding. Engines slowed. External comms fell silent. Sela grabbed a neural control rod and barked at the guards to prepare transport. "We're moving her to the off-grid vault now." But as they neared the prison level, the lights went completely out. Darkness, then red. Backup lighting bathed the halls in blood. Doors began to open on their own empty rooms, storage units, and even some cells, until they stood in front. Of the prisoner's chamber, still sealed, still silent, the guards moved forward, then the door slid open with a hiss without command. The human stood there, her back facing them. She didn't turn, didn't speak. Sela took a step forward, raising a translator. "What are you?" The woman finally moved. She tilted her head slightly, then spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft, measured. "You were warned." Exploded. A wave of energy surged through the hall. The guards collapsed. Sela dropped to one knee, pain shooting through her head like fire. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The human walked forward, slow and steady, no weapons, just the mark. And as she passed each fallen guard, their bodies convulsed one sand, then went still. Sela could barely breathe now. Her vision swam. The air felt thick. The ship groaned like it was alive and suffering. She whispered, "What? Are you?" The human leaned close. Her eyes glowed faint blue. "I am not alone." And she was gone. Vanished. No teleport signature. No door opened. No corridor breached. Just, it's gone. Silence. The emergency lights flickered back. Systems began rebooting. But the core data was wiped. Navigation erased. Logs missing. Identity protocols corrupted. And the mark. It's been burned into the wall where the prisoner once stood. But now it was joined by a second symbol. Connected. A countdown. Sela stared at it, unable to look away. The numbers began ticking down from 72 hours. Something was coming, and she had no idea what back on Earth. Deep underground in a facility only a few humans knew existed, as multiple screens lit up. One of the operators leaned forward, looking at the signal. "Another contact," he whispered. The mark activated. A general behind him nodded slowly. "Begin Protocol 13. 13, the operator said. "We haven't used that since the general looked him dead in the wall. Eyes. Since we lost Saturn Station. And we won't lose again." Far above Earth, unseen by any satellite, a long, dark shape moved through space like a shadow cutting through light. Silent, unscannable, covered in markings just like the one on the woman's back, and inside it. "We're waking up." The galaxy had laughed at Earth. Now it would remember why humans had stopped. Laughing a long time ago. Because the key had been turned, and the door was about to open. The hall was quiet. Too quiet. For a place filled with powerful alien leaders, soldiers, and nobles from across the galaxy, the silence was heavier than any words. All eyes were on her. Terra, the proud general of the Dreven Empire, was no longer standing tall. Her hands shook. Her mouth was dry. Her confident smirk was gone, because now she had seen it. That mark, that cursed mark on her back. She had laughed at it at first, thinking it was just some primitive symbol. Humans use like cave paintings. But now she knew. It wasn't just a tattoo. It was a warning, a history, a curse, and possibly, Dad. Prophecy. She hadn't told anyone yet, not even her closest advisors, what the mark truly meant. Because deep down, she was afraid to say it. Out loud. If she did, the truth would become real, once it was real. There would be no turning back. 2 days earlier, she had visited the captured human again Commander Reyna Cole. The human woman was locked behind thick energy barriers. In a secure Dreven prison, deep inside one of the warships, Terra had gone in alone. No guards. She didn't think she needed them. After all, Reyna was just a weak human, right? But now, Terra wasn't so sure. Reyna had looked up at her from the shadows, her voice calm and cold. "Shh. You finally figured it out, didn't you?" Terra didn't reply. "The mark," Reyna continued. "You saw it. You felt it, didn't you?" Terra wanted to walk away. She didn't want to hear more. But her feet wouldn't move. Reyna leaned forward, her eyes glowing in the dim light. "You Drevens think humans are weak because we bleed easily, because we're smaller, because we smile when we lose. But that mark on my back, it isn't decoration. It's a reminder of what happens when someone pushes too far." Terra tried to control her voice. "It's just ink," Reyna smiled. So was the last warning. right before the last empire fell. Tara had left quickly after that, but her dreams were filled with fire that night. Not from weapons, but from the image of the mark itself. Design was simple, a human skull, half covered in shadow. Below it, a line of strange earth symbols she couldn't translate. But the strangest part was the shimmer. The ink wasn't normal. It reacted to energy, to heat, even to her thoughts. Sometimes it looked like it moved. Sometimes it felt like it watched her. The Dreven High Council had started asking questions. Why was Tara silent in meetings? Why were plans delayed? Why hadn't the human been executed yet? But Tara didn't answer. She didn't trust them. Not anymore. Something was wrong, and she needed to find the truth before it was too late. She began her own secret investigation. She broke protocol and contacted a forbidden AI archive left from an old war. It was dangerous, illegal, and could lead to her being exiled. Or worse. But she had no choice. The AI called itself Omicron 7. It was ancient. It had survived the fall of at least 2 galactic powers. And it had files on humanity-classified files. When the AI appeared, its voice echoed like thunder. Query? Tara? Took a breath. What is this symbol? She sent the image of Reyna's mark. The AI paused. Then, for the first time in its long existence, it hesitated. That, it said, is a human legacy mark. It's very rare, very dangerous. Tara's skin felt cold. Explain. This mark is given to only a few humans in their military history. It is earned, not given. It means extinction-level authority. What if the one who wears it is harmed or killed? The Earth protocols activate. Tara leaned forward. What protocols? The return, the reaping, and the reset. The AI began showing her flashes of old human wars. Entire planets burned, moons shattered, stars dimmed. Not because of weapons, but because of something far worse. Humans, who had nothing left to lose. Tara couldn't believe it. They would destroy entire worlds for one person. The AI answered with no emotion. They have before. Her blood turned to ice. That meant Reyna Cole wasn't just a soldier. She was a trigger, a signal. And now she was in Dreven hands. Tara shut off the AI and erased all traces of their contact. She was shaking. The galaxy didn't understand what they were playing with. Capturing Reyna might not have been a victory. It might have been the spark that set the entire galaxy on fire. Back on the Dreven warship, the engineers noticed strange signals in deep space. Energy spikes. Hidden code transmissions. Pattern no one had seen before. Tara reviewed the data herself. She saw something. Terrifying and ancient Earth signal repeating in pulses. It was the old distress beacon, but reversed. A signal meant to call back something, or someone. Reyna had done it. Somehow she had sent the signal. The countdown had begun. Tara stormed into the prison. She didn't bring guards again, but this time it wasn't because of pride. She didn't want witnesses. Reyna was sitting calmly. Meditating. You sent the signal, Tara said. Reyna opened her eyes. Yes, why? You'll kill everyone. Only those who laughed, Reyna whispered. Teri grabbed the bars. Call it off. I can't. Why? Because Reyna said, you made the last mistake. Suddenly, the prison walls shook. Not from an attack, but from something else. Something approaching. Something ancient. Tara ran back to the command center, but it was too late. The first visual came in. A ship. No, a fleet. It's bigger than anything she'd seen. Not Dreven. Not from any known race. Black, silent, cloaked in shadows. It moved like it was alive, and at the center of it all was the symbol. The same mark burned onto Reyna's back. Tara looked around. The officers were panicking. The crew didn't know what to do, because for the first time in Dreven history, they weren't the predators, they were the prey. The moment Varix arrived at the human archives on Mars, she felt uneasy. The red dust clung to her clothes as the transport doors slid open. The human soldiers didn't say much, but their eyes followed her every move. Some of them even smirked. as if they knew something she didn't. She kept her head high and her translator device close. Varix had come far from her home world to understand the strange symbol burned into her skin. That mark had changed everything, ever since it appeared. She had been hearing whispers both from others and sometimes from inside her own mind. She didn't know if it was fear, knowledge, or something darker creeping in. 2 humans escorted her into the archive building. It wasn't a cold, metallic place like she had imagined. It felt ancient walls filled with books, holograms, and strange carved objects that pulsed with old energy. A tall man with gray hair and piercing eyes greeted her. His name tag read Dr. Linford. "You're the alien with the mark," he said calmly, not even pretending to be surprised. Varix narrowed her eyes. "You've seen this before?"
Doctor.
Linford nodded and turned to lead her deeper into the archive. A long time ago, on Earth and in other places where humans were never supposed to be, they walked past rows of locked cases. Behind thick glass, Varix saw weapons that looked old, but somehow dangerous. She felt the weight of something heavy pressing on her chest. As they stopped at a sealed door, Dr. Linford placed his hand on a scanner. The door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a room unlike any she had seen. In the center was a glowing table, and floating above it was a holographic image of the mark on her back. But now it wasn't just one symbol, it was part of a much larger design. A map. A warning, Varix. Stepped forward, eyes wide. "What is this?" Dr. Linford spoke slowly. "That symbol on your skin? It's not just a mark. It's a key. And you're not the first alien to wear it, but the others." They never lived long after the mark appeared. She turned sharply to him. "Why me? Why now?" He studied her carefully. "'Cause you mocked something you didn't understand. And now the thing you mocked has chosen you." The lights flickered for a moment, and the hologram shimmered. Varix saw flashes images of dead worlds, old gods, giant machines buried under moons, and always the same mark shining before destruction. Followed, her legs felt weak. Dr. Linford pressed a button, and a new image appeared, an old photograph. It showed a young human woman smiling. She had the same mark on her back. She was the first to survive. She disappeared shortly after this photo was taken. No one knows where she went. Varix's voice cracked. "Why would it appear on me?" Dr. Linford looked at her with something close to pity. "'Cause the mark doesn't care what species you are. It chooses messengers. And sometimes, warnings." Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. Alarms blared. Red lights filled the room. A voice crackled through the speakers. "Containment breach. Level 7. Unknown anomaly approaching the archive." Dr. Linford's face went pale. "It's too late." It followed the mark. Varix felt something stir inside her. Not fear, something older. Something awake. She touched the mark on her back, and her fingers burned. Outside, something massive was moving through the Martian dust. A shadow with no shape, no sound, just presence. And it was getting closer. Dr. Linford opened a metal drawer and handed her a small object. It looked like a tiny cube with the same symbol etched into it. "This is your only chance," he said. "Take it. The mark has opened the path. The rest is up to you." Varix grabbed the cube, and for a moment the mark on her back glowed brightly. The lights in the archive went out, and in that perfect silence, the galaxy held its breath. Everything turned black. The lights, the walls, the floor gone. Varix stood in the middle of nothing, holding the glowing cube, the symbol on her back burning like fire. She couldn't breathe. Or maybe she wasn't supposed to. Then slowly, stars began to appear around her. Galaxies spun. Time itself moved backward, then forward again. She wasn't just standing in the archives anymore. She was somewhere else. A deep, booming voice echoed in her mind, not in her ears. "You are the last one? The others failed. You carry the key. Do you understand what that means?" "No," Varix shouted, her voice echoing across the stars. "I didn't ask for this." The voice didn't care. "You laughed. You mocked. But now, the price must be paid." Flashes filled her vision, worlds on fire, gods falling from the sky, and humans walking through the ruins like shadows made of steel and fury. She saw ancient ships, shaped like swords and serpents, rising from long-dead planets. She saw the first one who carried the mark, a human girl. Standing alone on a battlefield where thousands of alien corpses lay, that same girl looked straight at Varix now through the visions. "Run," she whispered. "Or become." Varix opened her eyes with a scream. She was back in the archive, but everything was on fire. The building was collapsing. Dr. Linford was gone. The soldiers were gone. Outside the dome, the sky was red. The shadow creature that followed the mark was crashing toward her, its shape shifting like smoke and rage. She ran, the cube clutched in her hand. The mark on her back pulsed like a second heart, every time. She turned a corner. The archive changed. Doors led to new worlds. Hallways twisted into tunnels of light and memory. She wasn't just running through Mars, she was running through humanity's hidden past. And it was terrifying. The mark wasn't just a key. It was a signal, a warning. And now it was awake. Finally, Varix reached a final chamber. Inside stood a circle of black stone pillars, each one carved with the symbol. In the center, a floating throne of light hovered above a glowing platform. Something inside her knew what to do. She stepped onto the platform. The cube in her hand disintegrated into light. The mark on her back blazed like a star. The throne opened, revealing an ancient message, written in human standard language. When they laugh at us, we wait. When they strike us, we rise. When they forget us, ... we return with fire. The throne accepted her. Power flooded her veins. Her body rose into the air. Her eyes burned with golden light. The shadow that chased her stopped outside the chamber, frayed now. She could feel its fear, because she was no longer just Vi Rex. She had become the voice of the last human guardian, a guardian who had been waiting for someone any want. Carry the mark and survive the test. The shadow turned to run. She raised her hand, and with one thought, she erased it from existence. Not just from the present, but from memory, from time. From every world it had ever touched. Silence returned. Varix dropped to the ground, her breath shaking. The throne was gone. The chamber was still. But she was not the same as the human rescue teams finally arrived, scanning the burning ruins of the archive. They found only one living being, an alien with strange golden eyes marked with a symbol. None dared speak aloud. She looked at them and smiled, not with mockery, but with knowledge. The same knowledge that once turned primitive humans into the most feared species in the galaxy. And from that moment on, no one laughed at humanity again. It had been 3 months since the archives on Mars burned. 3 months since Varix walked out of the fire, marked by something ancient, something no alien had ever carried before. Now, she sat alone in a quiet chamber aboard a human command ship. The walls were lined with screens showing distant star systems, some peaceful, others already stirring with fear. All of them watching Mars closely. She wasn't a prisoner, but she wasn't free either. General Arden, commander of the Sole Defense Authority, stepped into the room. He was tall, human, and tired. His eyes held both curiosity and concern. "You've been quiet," he said. "I've been listening," Varix replied softly. "There are voices, ... old ones, buried in my blood now." He sat across from her. "You understand what happened, don't you?" Varix nodded. "The mark is not just a warning. It's a seal, a door. When the galaxy forgets who humans truly are, the mark chooses someone to remind them. That someone was me. You're not human." "No," she agreed. "But the mark didn't care. Maybe it never did. Maybe it just needed someone who laughed, so it could show them the truth." He studied her carefully. "You understand? Others out there will come for you now. The ones who remember the old war. The ones who swore they'd never let humanity rise again." "I know. And us?" he asked. "Do you fear us?" She looked into his eyes, and for the first time since the flames, She smiled, dashed gently. Double quotes, no, I envy you. Why? Because you forgot how powerful you were, and you still survived. General Arden stood. When the council learns what you are, they'll panic. There'll be talks, threats, maybe even war. She looked up at the stars through the viewport, then let them come. Far away, in a distant sector of space, the council gathered in secret. When they received the transmission, the image of Virex, alive. With golden eyes and the ancient mark burning on her back, they fell silent. No one laughed. One elder whispered, voice shaking, they've awakened the guardian bloodline. Has begun. Another whispered, and she's not even one of them. What happens when a true human takes the mark again? No one answered. Because they all knew what happened the last time, and this time it might be worse. The council called an emergency meeting, not a public one, not one filled with political speeches or cameras. This was deep inside the old vaults of Zarek Prime, under 10 levels of security and guarded by ships the size of moons, only the highest. Members were allowed in. At the center of the room, floating in a clear sphere of light, was a hologram. It showed her Virex. But this time, she was not just walking out of fire. She was leading a formation of human and alien ships. United, faster, stronger, deadlier than anything the council had ever seen. Ships once lost to history now flew again, built by human minds and alien hands. And the mark on her back, the glowing symbol that had once been feared in silence, was now projected on banners, on ship hulls, even tattooed onto some of the human captains, the mark of remembrance. The council elder who once laughed at humanity had not spoken in days. His eyes were hollow now. She should have died in the flames. Someone whispered, she was chosen by the mark. Another answered, she's more than one of them now. We need to act. No, a voice growled from the shadows. It was Elder Sotha, oldest among them. She had seen the human wars. She had fought and survived. If we strike now, she said, we confirm their fears. We feed the fire. We must offer peace. Peace. The others hissed. She was one of us, Sotha said. And now she is more. If we treat her like a threat, she will become one. The humans will not start a war. But if we give them one, they will finish it. Silence. Then a message arrived. Not a threat, not a demand. A meeting request. From Virex herself, the location, ancient ground. The ruins of Zalterana battlefield, where the last war between humans and the galaxy ended in flames 600 years ago. She wanted to talk. No armies, no fleets, just her. And them, a test, a warning, or maybe a chance. The council debated, argued, feared, but they agreed. Because behind their closed doors in quiet fear, one truth burned brighter than all. Humanity had changed, or maybe it had never changed at all. Maybe the galaxy was just remembering who they really were when the time came. Virex stood on the ruins alone, dressed in simple robes, no weapons. Only the mark glowing behind her like a sun. One by one, the elders arrived. They expected a speech, a demand, a declaration. What she said was simple. I am not here to rule. I am here to remind. Remind us of what? One elder asked. She turned, pointing to the scorched land behind them. To remember why fear was once your only defense against humanity. They said nothing. She walked away, slow and calm. Behind her, a new fleet rose in the sky. Not human, not alien. Something. New, made of both, and across the stars whispers spread. The girl with the mark had walked through fire. Came out not as a weapon, but as a warning. The galaxy had laughed, but now it listened, and it would never laugh. Again,